Although the Blackhawks have had very limited choices this season, they've definitely made some questionable decisions on what they want to do with their lineup over recent weeks. Now, a lot of this does have to do with injuries, but right now, the Blackhawks are not doing what they should be, and that is changing the lineup around to see what finally works. Now, we have to talk about this. There's a lot of changes the Blackhawks definitely couldn't make to this lineup to make the team better. Not too good, though, to keep in mind. The Blackhawks do, as of the recording of this video, have the pace for the number 1 overall pick. So, what needs to change? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. But before we get into all of that, we notice that 83% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you want to join the road to Macklin Celebrini in the first overall pick, make sure to hit that sub button. We post Blackhawks content and news as it happens, so hit the sub button, you'll be the first to find out when we get any breaking news from your Chicago Blackhawks. But like I said, we really need to talk about what needs to change. There are so many things the Blackhawks could do to make this team even slightly better. You might not win the games that you normally would with a solid NHL lineup, a full, completed NHL lineup, but this team needs some help, and there's no questioning that. We'll pull up today's lines that we have for tonight's game. Going against Calgary is the exact same that we saw against the Edmonton Oilers, in which they lost 3-0. Now, from that game, watching that game, analyzing that game, there was definitely some changes that need to be made, and they have not done it going into this game against the Calgary Flames. Now, we know these are two very different teams, but there's a lot of things that we need to discuss. Noah, what do you think is the first part about this team? What do you think is the main problem with this team that needs to change going forward throughout the final half of the season?
I hate to pick on people. It's I don't like to do it, but Taylor Raddysh on the first line, I don't think is working out. I mean, the guy who's brought in to be a goal scorer, he's been a goal scorer his whole career, and I think he's got 5 or 6 goals this year in 40-plus games. I mean, that's not what you want. I mean, that's not to say everybody on the Blackhawks is obviously underperforming. We know that. We know they're statistically probably one of the worst teams to ever be put on ice. But he's not a first-line winger right now. I mean, he scored 20 goals last year. We know he has the talent. It's kind of frustrating to see because, I mean, we've seen what he can do, but he's not putting it all together, and I don't think he's a first-line right winger right now.
No, like you said, Noah, everybody's underperforming on this team. There's a lot of people who are filling in holes for injured players. We had Tyler Johnson, Connor Bedard, Anthony Beauvillier, 3 top-line players there, or could be top-line players, all hurt, not being able to be in this lineup for a while. But, people are going to have to step up in the absence. They know that as players. We know that as fans. And, it is frustrating, like you said, although this team definitely does have something to do with it, how empty it is, the style of play they're currently in a rebuild. And obviously you don't want, as a management side of things and a fan side of things, to do too good when you currently have the number 1 overall pick. Now, obviously the lottery has to go through everything, but they have the best odds to get that number 1 pick at the current moment. And I think it's going to stay very close to this for the rest of the season. But,
so, yeah.
You obviously don't want to stray away from the development of young kids. And one player that is currently, kind of doing that is Lukas Reichel. We've seen him struggle all season. He has, I would say, 9-10 points if I were to guess. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but he's been very underperforming a lot this year. I'll pull up the stats from last game once again. Right at the bottom there, you can see his on-ice offense, his on-ice defense, his regular defense, everything. And just a slight bit of offense is above, but everything else is a negative. And this is something that you obviously don't want to see for a player like Lukas Reichel, your next guy up after Connor Bedard. Really the guy that you've been waiting for alongside that, kind of out of the spotlight and given the opportunity to shine in the absence of Bedard, in the absence of, a lot of players on this team. But we just haven't seen it at all this season. There's been no point where we've seen Lukas Reichel look even any bit comfortable on this team. Now, obviously, he's very young, lots of time to develop. However, you don't want to stray him too far off the path that you want him to go down. I have a perfect tweet here to exemplify every Blackhawks fan's thoughts on Lukas Reichel right now. It says, send Lukas Reichel down the AHL for 5 to 10 games. Let him eat in the AHL. After his point production and confidence get back to the level we've seen it in the past, bring him back up, watch him flourish for the final quarter of the season. Now, this is what we've been saying. I know this is what we've been thinking. This is what every Blackhawks fan has been thinking. But Luke Richardson said that, he's too good for the AHL. If that's the point, let him go down, let him absolutely dominate the AHL, and let him come back up and just, get his confidence back. I think it's a big piece of what Lukas Reichel is missing is that confidence. But no, what do you think about Lukas Reichel? Obviously a big piece of this team here.
I don't understand what the organization is doing. You know, obviously we know he's struggling. We've been making how many videos on him about how he hasn't been the player. You know, we've seen. I mean, last year he lit it up in the AHL, and we've seen like sort of like he had promise last year. I think he played 20 or 25 games, and we saw that player that went 17th overall there a couple years ago. I don't understand why he's even on the third line in the NHL. The guy's been like not great this season. That's an understatement. The guy's been absolutely terrible this season. Send him down to the AHL. Put him on the first line. You know, let him absolutely rip it up. Like we know he has the talent. I mean, we've seen last year, and I think he played 50 games or something down in Rockford. I like let him get his confidence up, like you said. Bring him back up for the last 10, 15 games, and then we have the player that we've been looking for. I mean, it's boneheaded to me. I don't usually go on rants. I'm not that type of person, but this is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like we know that you want him to get the biggest, the strongest competition, like the heaviest competition, which is the NHL, of course. But that hasn't worked. That hasn't worked so far whatsoever. And I think that you need to just, at this point, let him go where he's comfortable. I'm sure that he understands that he's struggling. He wants to get back to his normal pace, and let him to go to the AHL. You know, there's nothing to lose this season at all. It's not like Lukas Reichel's been your top point production player, and you're going to lose him for the season. You know, no, that's not the case. You know, send him down the AHL, let him get comfortable, and let him get back to what we've seen him as last year. Like you said, Noah, we seen him last year in his time with the Blackhawks and with the Rockford IceHogs. But he was very good, and that Blackhawks team was, you know, pretty close to what we have this year. Without Connor Bedard, it is very, very similar. So it gives him an opportunity.
It's also the fact that he, you know, 22 years old. I mean, he still has so much time to develop into, you know, the player that he wants to be. And I mean, you know, we've all seen that he can, like, it's frustrating from a fan standpoint as well, because we know how good the kid can be, and it seems like the management knows how good he can be, but they don't want to do anything to help him. Like, I don't know. And that's kind of frustrating to me, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like, I love Lukas Reichel. He's such a fun player to watch when he's on his game. Like when you see, you can tell when he has that confidence, when he understands that he could be the best player on the ice if he wanted to. And not seeing that this season, it really just, I don't like it. You know, I want to see the Blackhawks do something, go out of their way to get him back to that point, get him back to that confidence. And I really do think the only route is the AHL. You know, at this point, it really is.
The tell was when him and Tim Stutzel played for Germany in the World Juniors. They were skating laps around everybody. It was like, I don't know. I wish we got that player. Like, you know, to play with Connor Bedard, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. And now, to be fair, we understand that he don't have much help on this team at all. You know, but neither does anybody else. And we've seen some people like Jason Dickinson, Nick Foligno, Connor Bedard when he was healthy. All these guys strive, even if they're not surrounded by anybody. So, you know, you got to take a step up. You can't be pushed by players around you. You can't be good because of other players. You have to have an impact from yourself. But, you know, Lukas Reichel, there's lots of time, like we said. We're heavy on him. We want him to do good. We hope he does good. But one more thing before we end this video off here we need to talk about is what do you know what? I got to ask you this, okay? What do you think about Seth Jones? What do you think needs to be done with him? Do you think he should be traded? Do you think we need to let him rest? Like, let him stay on this team? And because we've seen him, we've noticed the absence when he was gone due to injury. There was a big gap there on the first line right defense, but since he came back, we've seen some very questionable plays. One of those being firing the puck right into the middle of the ice off Alex Vlasic's skate and into the net. If Alex Vlasic wasn't there, I don't know where that puck was going. That was going right to the opposing defenseman, a man in the slot. Whoever was close, that was going to them. It was not going to be leaving the defensive zone. So what do you think about Seth Jones? What do you think that needs to be done with him?
I'm going to talk about the player. I'm not going to talk about the contract. I feel like that needs to be said.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm looking at it from a leadership standpoint. who, I mean, obviously Nick Foligno's there. Nick Foligno's kind of taken on the C without actually wearing the C. But I think, Seth Jones has been in the league for a while. I'm trying not to credit him, but I'm also trying not to discredit him, I guess, is my kind of thoughts. He's been there, he knows the game, and for the young guys, Alex Vlasic, we've seen how good he's developed and how his promises keep coming, and he has developed his potential. So I think I look at Seth Jones as kind of like he's helping develop Alex Vlasic. I'm trying to make a positive out of a negative, I guess, is the best thing I'm trying to do.
Yeah, like you're right. He is part of that leadership group, but the leadership group that the Blackhawks do have right now is very old. Let's not get that wrong. Peter Mrazek is on the older side. Nick Foligno is very close to retirement. Kind of surprised if this Blackhawks team wasn't in the situation it is. If I'm kind of wondering if he would have retired or not. Like I don't know. But Seth Jones is in that prime age of his career. He's the leader on that team that still has a long career left. So I do understand that the Blackhawks want to keep him around for that reason, but his play has shown that it's a pretty tough situation. Now, once again, not much help around him, not much help on the offensive side or the defensive side of the puck for him. So you have to take into effect that is definitely has an impact on his style of play. So we can only really take it with a grain of salt because we haven't seen these players with like a solid lineup around them, with help around them, options that they can use in game. But there are some things that need to be done, and that's only a few ideas that we had. But we want to know what you guys think in the comments below as well. Obviously, we've seen a lot of input from fans around the Blackhawks on Twitter, on Reddit, everything. People are putting in their input, and it's all pretty similar to what we have here today. But if you have any other ones, let us know. We want to hear it, and let me know what you think about the ones that we had here today. But that's all we got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. Make sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. Make sure to like the video, but that's all we got. We're signing out. Thank you for watching. See ya.